guys, welcome back to Strip by Sia. We are joined today by the lovely Goddess Ivy Harte. She is a dominatrix. So wow, 20 episodes in, another dominatrix in. We're so excited. If you guys listened to episode 1, the dominatrix featuring Sadie, you might have heard a couple really fascinating stories on that episode. That featured Ivy Harte, who we have on today. So we're so excited to get into everything BDSM, FET, kink, everything. So, hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's nice to finally be here, finally meet you.
Yay, I know. We've been trying to schedule something in for so long and it finally happened. I'm so glad we scheduled aligned.
We're both busy girls.
Yes, very, very, very busy girls. So, what keeps you busy? What do you do?
Well, yeah, I'm a dominatrix. So I do mostly in-person sessions. Mm-hmm. I do some kind of online distance training with a few different subs and slaves.
Oh.
But I tend to do mostly in-person sessions.
Okay. How did you get started? Tell me your story. Is there any training for this? How does one get involved? How do you get into the community?
Yeah. So I started getting into kink in my personal life a few years ago. It was interesting because at the beginning when I was first I was into kink when I was younger, mm-hmm. and then had some experiences where that was kind of shamed, and so I put it on hold for many, many years and just sort of suppressed that side of myself, mm-hmm. which I also noticed a lot of my clients kind of come from that history as well, where they've wanted to explore but not felt safe to do so.
Right.
So I can really relate with that.
Okay.
And I do some coaching sessions, which I really enjoy, and that kind of helps to bring people out of their shell, helps to figure out what they're actually interested in, and kind of how we can explore some of their kinks in a safe way.
Right. Yes.
But
yeah, very important.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I like I said, I started to get into kink, and at first I thought that I was submissive because the partner that I had at the time was, leaning more dominant. So I was like, okay, I'll try it, and tried being submissive. And I learned so much. A lot of doms are like, no, I don't want anything to do with subbing, and I am that way now, mm-hmm. but I really feel like it gave me a really, really good understanding of what submissives are looking for. Because I had that experience of what does it feel like to be in what we call subspace, where, you get kind of high from all this BDSM activity.
Right.
So, that gave me a good intro into the scene, and started to learn more about it. There's lots of really good classes that you can go to learn more about BDSM. And
I feel like there's a lot more availability and accessibility now as opposed to many, many years ago when it was just within the community.
Totally.
So
kink has become so much more accepted and so much more popular. And I started to make, new kinky friends and get more and more involved into the kink scene. And then it turns out that I happened to know a whole bunch of people that were sex workers of one form or another.
Right.
All different, like camming, stripping, escorts, and a few doms, and super admired the work that they were doing. It seemed so fun and interesting.
It's fun.
Yeah, and of course the money is a huge appeal.
It's a huge factor as well.
Of course, and so I was like, okay, well then Sadie and I met, and we were both like, we would do weird things for money. This could be fun. So we started offering sessions together. For the first little while, we just worked together, and we just had so much fun. I still love working with her so much. We don't get to work together that much anymore, but it was felt really like a safe way to kind of get into doing it professionally, because we just always did duos together.
Right. Oh my gosh. Okay, I have so many questions just from what you just said here. So, okay, can we go all the way back to one of your first statements was when you first started playing around interpersonal with dom and sub roles. So you started off as a sub because that's what your partner was dom. So you're obviously going to do the opposite. How was that experience for you starting off as a submissive?
I don't know, I mean, we had a pretty vanilla relationship and started exploring kink together. So we had like a really deep trust of one another.
Right.
And yeah, we just started playing around with different things like pain, flogging, collaring, that kind of stuff.
Right, which I think, well, I don't know if it is, but like, yeah, very safe kind of ways to go and kind of like a good entry level into that kind of world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like kink light. Yeah. That's how we started. And then it was like, just opened up this huge world of like all the filthiest things, which was so much fun.
The more interesting things, right?
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned like when playing roles properly, it kind of gives you a bit of a high.
Yes.
I could totally relate to that too, because I had one of my old sugar daddies with a dom, and he was trying to introduce me to the same things as you said, like, you know, with the collar and like flogging and stuff like that. And I just remembered like, oh, I would want to get into this and like try it out, but then I just remembered like, you know, you have to be fully committed to this role. Yeah. You can't just kind of like half-ass it or just like kind of act. You have to like totally commit to that. And like, I just remember it being like a total like out-of-body experience. Like I actually like started crying after the session because I felt like just like brought out something within me.
Totally, like such a release. There's such a gift when a submissive gives you that amount of power, and you know, it can really release a lot of things. And that's why we do something called aftercare, and everybody needs different aftercare. And like when you get to that subspace and you get those feelings, you get high, like everybody needs something different afterwards. A lot of my subs just like to like lay their head on my lap and like let me pet them, like, you know.
Oh wow, I didn't know that was a thing too. So
yeah,
aftercare is
yeah,
a thing. Okay,
totally. And like I always tell them, I'm like, go get like a big meal or like have a snack, something grounding. If it's after like a really intense scene, right.
Okay, so sorry. So you call them scenes, not sessions, or
both?
It's both.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I'm just trying to get on with the lingo here too. There's so much different lingo. Okay, so then you kind of started playing around, and then you started really getting into it professionally. At what point did you kind of take it to a professional approach, and how do you do that? How do you approach that too?
Yeah, well, that was really interesting. At that point, I had already started, like, I had really realized that like subbing was just not for me. Like I thought, oh, like I'm submissive, and then it was as I started to switch, I realized like I don't actually have a submissive bone in my body, and like
so you're not even a switch either.
No,
you're just like absolutely
not anymore. Like it was submissive, then started switching, and then it was like, actually no, I'm not gonna sub anymore. Like this suits me so much better. And like, you know, I'm polyamorous, and my partners at the time and newer partners were like, yeah, that makes sense that you've never been submissive. I'm like, yeah, I tried it wasn't for me.
Not for you, no.
Yeah. But then like making the switch over to doing it professionally was like pretty cool. It was a really fun and like exciting process because, like I said, like I already had so many friends that were doing sex work, and I had been so curious about it like my whole life. Like I'd always been curious about it. And, you know, I had partners that like weren't supportive of doing anything in that industry, and so didn't really go forward with it. But like when I realized that like I could do this, it was just like so thrilling, you know?
Yeah, very exciting times for sure.
And you're like making good money doing it, and you're like, yeah, I'm a boss.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So like in terms of, I know we touched about this on episode 1, but it's been a while, so if there's new listeners and whatnot, it's been a while. It's episode number 20, I believe, now. But like, how do you get started with that professionally? Like in terms of ensuring a safe space for your clients, you know, getting the equipment, the costumes. I'm sure like all of that matters as well. You know, creating the environment and the space. Like where do you start with that?
Yeah, well, I had a friend that was an escort, and so we started out by using her space because, you know, you don't want to do it in, I mean, a lot of people do it in their homes. I didn't want to do it in my home. I wanted to have it removed from my personal life.
Right.
For safety reasons, right? And yeah, so we started advertising. There's lots of different ways to do that. And working out of her apartment, which felt really safe. And it took, especially within, like, as a dom, like, yeah, all the equipment is quite expensive to get started up. Like, you don't want to have the, like, cheap from Amazon stuff. It's just not good quality, right? So you have to, like, start slowly. I kind of just started by, like, what the requests that I was getting.
Right.
So some things you don't need very much equipment at all.
Depending on what you do, right?
Exactly.
What you offer.
Exactly. And then I had a friend that set up a full dungeon. And so gradually started just taking sessions there. And now I worked in a fully equipped dungeon that has all the equipment, all the toys. A lot of those toys that I purchased or my subs or slaves have purchased for me. Nice. And yeah, like I have just actually an insane amount of like outfits and like leather stuff and latex clothing, like all the things. It's just like I barely had room to keep it. I had to buy like a whole dresser just for like sexy outfits, which was so much fun.
That's amazing. Yeah. So are you operating out of that fully operational and fully stocked dungeon now then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Almost exclusively.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's all set up and
it's all there.
God, it's got everything, and it's so comfortable to work there, and everything's there, and it's fun. Like, who doesn't want to go to a dungeon? If you're interested in kink, like, go to the dungeon, you know?
Come to the dark side, guys. Yeah. Have you ever had times or requests where you have to go to the client's house or,
Yeah, I mean, more so at the beginning we would do that. Now I'm like, no, just come to the dungeon. It's got everything there. It's like so much work for me to go to the dungeon, pack up all the things that I would need, bring them. Like, I usually it's not convenient, and it's like everything is set up at the dungeon. So I definitely prefer to work out of the dungeon.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were first starting out, you typically go to clients' houses or a space that was available.
Yeah, or like my friend's place. I would work out of there often.
Totally. How do you ensure your safety in those types of environments, especially when you're first starting out, when you don't have a space and you don't know where to go, and how can you vet on these people? Yeah, I think they're essentially strangers.
Absolutely, right? Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's why Sadie and I started doing it together so in order to get our comfort and to learn how to screen people. And a lot of the screening, honestly, just happens by how the sub is communicating with me. Okay. I can tell, I get a lot of like Twitter DMs and Instagram DMs that are like, I just ignore. I ignore pretty much all of them. Once in a while, I'll be like, go fill out the form on my website. It says right at the top of my profile. Like, if they can't figure that out, I'm like, oh. But once in a while, I'll be nice and be like, here's a link to the form on my website. Usually, I just ignore them. Yeah. But, if they fill out the form properly and they're addressing me properly, I like to be addressed properly. Right. With respect. And especially coming from a sub, meeting a dom, they should be using correct language and, making sure they spelled things properly and and if there's any like hint of just like demandingness through our email interactions or like pushing my boundaries is a big one. Like if anybody is requesting things that I clearly state that I do not offer, they just get ignored. Right.
Because you have a very long list of what you offer, so it's just like, okay, buddy, if you can't freaking read, exactly, then what are you doing wasting my time?
Yeah, and the way that they interact with you, that will raise either green flags or red flags. Right. And
of course you get better at it with time.
You do.
As well.
Yes. And then, there's a quite a good process between, I can ask them, have you seen another provider and can you give me a reference? So I always get a reference. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I always get a deposit as well because, I have to book the dungeon space. Mm-hmm. And people often will get, really excited about kinky things. And then they'll, freak out at the last minute and cancel. And, I got tired of that. So I will not see anybody without a deposit now.
Wow. Mm-hmm. You've obviously come a long way. How long have you been doing this for?
Professionally for about 2 years. Wow. Yeah. I think it's been maybe longer. I don't know. Minimum 2 years. Maybe 2.5, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, wow. There's so many things. Okay, so reference checks. Okay, that's a big thing. Mm-hmm. And of course, filtering through emails. I totally get that. And deposits too. So would they Usually pay via like PayPal or something, or e-transfer or whatever.
Yeah.
Stuff
Yeah,
like
like PayPal, or
Yeah.
I get them to send me an Amazon card. Just something that proves that like they're
legitimate.
putting in some effort. It's great if they are willing to share their full name, or like the most respectful subs that I get, and the ones that I take very seriously, and the ones that I give my attention to, are the ones that will write me like a well thought out introduction about themselves, telling me about themselves, and they will often include like a link to their professional website, and I'm like, okay, wow, this person is serious.
Yeah.
They're gonna get my attention, right?
As opposed to the other guy that can't even address it properly, can't even like spell check anything, or
or hasn't read through my website. Like, my website has a lot of information. It has like a question, and I get annoyed if somebody clearly hasn't read my website and they're asking me to like, they're just wasting my time by asking all these questions. Like, I have put in the effort to make a nice website to answer all your questions. Read it,
Do yourself a favor and read it.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, I have your website here. I'm just going to go over a few things that you offer, because it's a lot. It's a lot. So guys, if you are curious, I'm sure at the end of the episode we'll plug anything that you want.
Okay.
But ivyharte.com. But current offerings, tons of things here. So impact play, force buy, cuckolding, pegging, do femdom sessions, pet play, humiliation, degradation, cross-dressing, role play, bondage, trampling, foot and boot worship sessions, sounding, teeth and denial, CBT, GS, ball busting, nipple torture, face slapping, fisting, toys, and app request. Holy fucking shit, that's a whole
Yeah, no, and even just you reading that, I'm like, oh, which one's my favorite? No, I like all of those things.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I'm familiar with there, and a lot of things I don't even know what they are. Like, I don't know what CBT is. I don't know what GS is.
Cock and ball torture.
Oh,
so
okay.
much fun.
Oh my god. Oh, okay. There's so many things here. So, okay. First of all, and I know you kind of looked at the questions earlier, but what is your specialty, or like what do you enjoy the most?
Yeah, so
can you even put them in?
I know,
a
it's
range?
so hard. You know what I enjoy the most is when a sub is really into something. Okay, so it's more than the activity. It's like the energy that we feed off each other. That's what I enjoy the most. So it doesn't even matter what the activity is for me. It's like, if we have a good connection and like, can connect and get into the same thing, like, it's fantastic. It doesn't even matter. One thing I've been doing a lot lately, like, that will always excite me, I feel like, is like force buy and cuckolding.
Yeah, fun.
So much fun.
What is that for the audience that just may not know what that is, for the vanilla peeps out there?
Yeah, so force buy is basically, so also like, I kind of have this cheeky thing where I run a slut school, and
oh yes, that's right. You asked me about that as well.
So I like to like encourage people to come back and see me, and like, we'll train them and we'll do more things and we'll push your boundaries, and like, maybe we'll start off with like kink light, and then like get further and further and like pushing boundaries and like doing new things together. And like, often like the graduation, like if they like, sucking my strap on, then I will like tell them like, soon you're gonna be sucking a real dick for me. And like, I just love that. So I basically like force, I'm using quotations here, I force them to suck a real dick. And it's like, graduating from slut school includes like forcing you to become bi. And I don't know why, I just love that so much. It's so much fun.
So fun. Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. So, slut school. Can you tell me about this?
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of my cheeky thing where I'm like, okay, well, it's all custom training, right? So whatever, we start with whatever your interests are, and then just like keep training you to do better, to serve me better, to, do more things for me, and like pushing people's boundaries is super fun.
Totally. Like, so I guess it's a private, like, custom, like, one-on-one session.
Yeah, one-on-one training.
That's a lot of exploration and stuff, too. What kind of people do you get, like, in terms of your clients for slut school?
Yeah.
Who do you usually get? Who shows up? Can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, I feel like it's mostly for the very dedicated slaves that are like really committed to me and really committed to going deeper with me, and like working towards like ownership, even where I'll have them collared with a special collar, or a lot of those subs will do, we'll be texting most days, as an additional service so that we just have like more of a connection
that way. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. So how do you get these people? How do you market yourself? How do you find these people, or how do they find you?
Yeah, they find me. Yeah, through often through Twitter. I do advertise on some of the sites, but a lot of the people that find me on the advertising sites are like transient. We get a lot of out of town people coming through Vancouver, so I'll see them maybe once. Maybe they'll come back next year for work or whatever, and they'll see me. My more dedicated slaves find me because they follow me on Twitter and they see my personality and they see what I'm really into, and like will reach out to me that way.
Okay. Can you share like what the ranges or the demographic of people? Is it all just like a mixed bag?
It's a total mixed bag. Like I get people from like age 21, and I'm like, how did you get to be so kinky so young? And then all the way up to like the way older guys. I've only had like 2 female clients, which is like...
I want to ask about that too, because I would assume it's mostly men.
It's mostly men.
Right, and 2 female clients.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What were those experiences like? Because you don't really hear of those experiences at all.
Yeah, they were both super fun.
Yeah.
Super, super fun. I'm definitely into doing more of that. It's just, there's...
Less common, though.
Yeah, it's less common.
Right. Okay. So, for slut school... Sorry, going back to that. So many different tangents here, guys. I was like, there's so many questions I want to ask you. For that, would they come to you for a certain kind of like, hey, I want to get more into this type of kink, or like teach me how to do that, or like how would that usually work?
Yeah, well, I don't know, an example would be like pegging. For instance, they'll come to me and like maybe they've like fantasized about pegging but have never actually done it, so we'll start small with like anal training with like smaller dildos and like work our way up to the bigger ones. Like I really like fisting, so
oh my God, ouch.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking ouch.
So that takes a lot of training, right?
Yeah,
And it takes a lot of dedication, and outside of our sessions as well. Like I will tell my subs to like get a set of graduated butt plugs and like work on stretching that out. That's your homework for school, right? Is to like wear your butt plug for an hour each day, and then like slowly get to the bigger ones.
Right. So by the time they see you again, then
then they're like stretched out and ready for the bigger one.
That's so fun. So there's obviously like a lot of role playing to do, lots of power play to do with dom sub kind of culture. So. Can you talk to me about the power dynamic and how important that is like when you're assuming these roles, especially as a dom?
Yeah. I mean, most of like people that come to me, I do see sometimes kinksters. I call them kinksters, where they're like they're not really submissive, they're not really slaves, but they have this specific fetish that they like, and it doesn't need to have as much of the power dynamic. But those requests are like few and far between. Most of them are, they want to feel submissive. They want to feel beneath you. They want to give you power. And so they already come in that role. Right. And, I'm in my dom space, so I'm like already there. Yeah.
Okay, so that's really interesting. How do you get, I know what's with your personality already. You're already very aggressive and, very...
I'm not aggressive, though.
You seem so lovely now.
Well, it's so funny, too. Like, just on that note, I've been thinking so much about, like, the different types of doms that are out there and the different types of personalities, and, like, how people think of a dominatrix as one way. Often it's, the super strict mistress, doesn't smile, doesn't have any fun, and is just, like, super strict and harsh all the time. That is not me. That is just not me. Like, I am, like, tender and sweet and caring and super compassionate, and I can be strict. Yeah. But even, like, and I can, if I get a request that somebody wants me to be like that, I'm like, for sure, I can get more into that role. Like, that's not a problem for me. But generally, the way that I play is, like, playful and kind of cheeky, and like I do like a lot of like mindfuck stuff. Like when you look at me, you don't see like a super muscly, like physically overpoweringly strong person. And like I don't do wrestling sessions, or like I don't do sessions where people want me to like physically overpower them. A lot of doms do that, and that is fantastic, and that is their niche, and that is why we are all so different. That's why there's so many different doms, and why like a sub is going to find a dom that works for them, right? And that's not me. Like I'll get those requests, and I'm like, did you see me? Like that's
not me.
I'm like mental dom, you know.
Oh, that's so interesting. So what other, okay, most people have the stereotypical kind of image and, you know, kind of assumption of what a dom is like. And you mentioned there's so many different other kinds too. Can you name a few different other kinds too for people that might not know like what's out there, or just does it depend on the request?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, as a professional, we do cater to what our subs and slaves are looking for, of course, right? And that's like the difference between like my personal life and work life. Like, yeah, I can put on that role of being like the super strict mistress, but that's not how I play in my personal life, and that's not like what comes as naturally to me as being like kind of like cheeky and like, you know, like I have a slut school and like, you know, just I don't know.
You're very sassy.
Like sassy's a good word to describe me for sure.
It's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, and like playful and like I don't know. It's just there's so many different styles. A lot of people do like the kind of mommy dom where they're like tender and like sweet.
Oh.
And a lot of people are like the super strict, like no smiley kind of.
Right.
Yeah, I mean we're all
different.
Yeah, we all have our personalities.
Right. That's so interesting. For those requests that you get sometimes, though, that are maybe outside of your box and stuff, how do you get into character?
A lot of it has to do with the outfit for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, costumes are very important.
Yeah, for sure.
And fun.
Yeah. Like if I put on I do like to do like the teacher student thing, so I'll put on my teacher outfit and my glasses.
Well,
helps get into role.
Yeah, it helps get into the role, and it adds to the experience too. Because then, if you're playing that role, you're not dressed appropriately. It kind of like maybe as the client, it won't feel as real. Maybe right. Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so going down here on your website too. So not interested in brown, Roman, FS, escort services, adult baby, wrestling, race play.
Yeah.
I don't even know what some of these are.
Yeah, I get requests for those things and like I just ignore them. They're not.
It's just not your style and stuff too.
I don't even like to talk about them.
No, okay, let's not talk about it. Because it's like, I don't even know what some of these are. But there's something for everyone, right?
There's something for everyone. It's not a judgment on you. It's not for me.
Right. Can we talk about feet fetishes?
Yeah.
I have so many questions, and I've had a lot of requests coming to me through Instagram and other places and stuff too that I've kind of like been playing around with. So I've sold my socks online, you know.
Hey.
Yeah, which is great, and it's super easy, and like they send the money. I'm like, oh my god, this is real. Like,
yeah.
So if you guys don't know, like a lot of people like to buy used socks and stuff, and you know, obviously the more smelly it is, the better. I don't know what they do with the socks. I have an assumption. I'm just not going to go there, but you know, whatever floats your boat, there's nothing wrong. You know, feet fetishes are the most common fetish.
They are,
right?
Yeah.
So, but I remember doing research on this too, because I was like, oh, like, what is this all about? Because I was curious. I'm like, how can you make more money?
Yeah.
But yeah, just like the picture thing and the soles and the spread toe thing. And
yeah.
Like, and then even going into ball busting, which I've done before by request. And there's also like people, I've had more requests for people want me to walk in their face or like walk on them, like anything to do with feet. So yeah. It's such a really interesting world. And
totally.
I'm so happy that you have that on your things and the things that you offer.
Yeah.
So I could ask you many questions about this.
Yeah.
So how do you, for these clients and stuff, would you find that it's like a pretty common request for you?
It is, yeah.
And pretty vanilla too, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it can be. Yeah. It can be or it cannot. And I think that that's the thing about when you name, like, one specific fetish, you know, everybody's come to that fetish for a different reason. Some people are just like, I like feet.
Right.
You know? And some people are like, I like feet because they're above me, and like I'm lying down and there's feet above me, and it's this power dynamic, right? Some people, yeah, so it's like one fetish, people can come to it for all different reasons. So that's what I try to do when somebody asks me for a specific thing. For instance, if somebody emails me and is like, I really just like pegging, it's like, okay, how do you want to feel? Do you want to feel like,
what do you want out of this?
Yeah, what's the goal? Is it just the physical sensation of pegging? Do you like sensual pegging? Do you like really intense, like hard power dynamic pegging? Like there's so many different things. And it's the same with feet, right? It's like some people just want to admire a beautiful foot, and some people are like, oh, the smell of like dirty feet is so gross that it is good.
Right.
You know?
Like there's so many different levels, because I find like with my research, it's like, okay, people want pictures of feet, or then, you know, people want the socks. People want to be walked on. People want, you know, to suck on their heel or other things and stuff like that too. So I guess there are different kind of extremities. Mm-hmm. I would say to that. What kind of requests have you gotten in terms of like feet play and stuff like that?
A lot of them, it's kind of like worked into all of their fetishes. So it'll be like, sometimes it's like a reward for the end of the session. If I feel like they did a good job, then they get to like worship my feet for a little while. Right. I have people that I do like foot gagging with, which is fun, where like I'll lie them down and like literally gag them with my feet and like stuff my foot down their throat as far as possible and like train their throat to take it's fun. It's like you see the improvement. It's like, oh, like now you can take like most of my feet. I have big feet. I have size 10 feet. Yeah, people love that. Like people love all feet. They love tiny feet, and they love like people will email me like, "What size are your feet?" I'm like 10. They're like, "Yay!"
So stoked.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so insane and sounds so intense. Like I think I almost gagged. Just like hearing about that, I was like, "Oh my god, ouch." Mm-hmm. So when you were first starting out, and you've gotten a request that you've never done before, how did you prepare for that? And how did you, you know, get the confidence that you could fully execute this and, you know, have your client leaving super satisfied? Mm-hmm. How nerve-wracking is that?
Yeah. I mean, it can be a... I mean, if it's something that makes me really, really nervous or uncomfortable, then I'll just be like, I don't think that's for me. Mm-hmm. But... yeah, like the internet obviously has tons of information. Just even like watching porn about it will give you a better idea. Yes. And then so true. And I'm really honest with people. I'm like, if somebody emails me requests that I've never done, I'll just straight up tell them like, you know, I've never done this. I am curious and interested and willing to give it a go. Right. Like I think that's important, instead of being like, oh, you know, I'm the best at this thing that I've never done, you know? Right.
It's nice that you give them some transparency, too.
Yeah. I think that's important. I think it's really important.
It's not just all about getting money and getting paid. I'm like, yes, that's a big part of it. But at the same time, you don't want them to be disappointed, too.
It's a lot of money, right? You don't want them to throw you a bunch of money and not have it work out either.
Right. Do those review sites still exist as well? Like, I remember Sadie mentioning there was, like, a website that she didn't name, but, like, you can rate people or something. I'm not sure if that's a thing anymore.
Like, there's one website called Perb. It's an escort review board. It's not very great, but there's not that many Dom reviews on there. Like, there's some, like, but I haven't gotten a review on there in, like, I don't know, like at least a year and a half. I don't think. Maybe I have. I don't know. I haven't looked in a while. So.
So do people mostly come to you now via your website, Twitter, like online, so in terms of like social platforms, as opposed to like, I'm not sure if you mentioned you advertise elsewhere as well, or?
Yeah, like so usually on like escort advertising sites, there's a Dom and fetish section that I'll advertise in.
Oh, okay, perfect.
But I don't advertise that much. I'm a low volume Dom. It's not my full-time job. I don't take tons and tons I don't take all the requests, and so therefore I don't advertise as much.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it just depends on your own schedule and stuff too, and whenever you're available and stuff too. Cause you're obviously really busy too.
Yeah, I am, and you know, I like to work with like the good people. So I keep the slaves and subs that I like, and because I just work part-time, like that's often enough to sustain me and keep me interested in the work and enjoying it. Like I'm very privileged that way. So yeah.
How do you keep them, like how do you ensure loyalty? Like how do you ensure that you will have like a repeat customer and stuff too? And
yeah, I mean, I think that from what I hear, other cities, the subs are like very, very loyal to their doms. And here in Vancouver, it's fairly transient. The kink scene, like in people's personal lives, I think is pretty big, but you know, maybe them seeing professionals isn't as big. Like I just don't, there's not a ton of work in it, to be honest. Like there's not, it's not like, honestly, like I would usually people get excited about it and they're like, you mean I can make this much money without taking off my clothes? And like
people get excited about that aspect. It's all glamorized, right?
It's glamorized, but honestly, like it's such a small scene. And I would totally recommend like people that are interested in getting into doming to maybe to camming or something. Like
I was just gonna say,
because you have a wider audience. It's very small and very niche here.
Right. Yeah. Especially for like in-person play, I find it's really small. And I was gonna say, like, I wonder if that's because people are getting what they need online via like humiliation porn or some other kind of BDSM porn or like camming and stuff too, as you said. Or people paying for like custom videos, because that's like what I do as well. Like, I wonder if that has changed a lot. Like, and this topic has come up in a lot of these episodes. You know, same with strip clubs too. Like, well, not a lot of people going to strip clubs anymore.
Right.
It's like a dying industry, and people are just, you know, getting their porn online or whatever.
Totally.
And stuff too. So same thing for the dom and the BDSM world. That's so fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just such a small scene here in Vancouver. That there's like, I think even if I wanted to do it full time and just do in-person sessions, I don't think that I would be able to
sustain. Yeah,
there's not enough.
Do you feel like it's been consistently like that across sports since you started, or have you seen like a decline, or has it been kind of the same?
There's definitely like slow months where I'm like, oh my god. And then there's times like this weekend where I was like so jam packed and like I was like, yeah, it was fun, but now I'm like, okay, I need like a week off. So it's like you take it when it's there kind of thing, but I don't usually see a ton of clients, and I like it that way.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just my own assumption, but it can just be like mentally tiring too, and also within, I guess, depending what kind of dom you are, it can be really physically tiring as well, right? Yep. So how long is each scene typically, or how does that, in terms of that?
I definitely prefer longer sessions that are like, I like 2-3 hour sessions, but that doesn't always happen, right? I feel like lately all that people have been booking is like an hour, and I'm like, okay, you want all these things, like we'll do what we can, but if you're not going to book more time, then you know, I definitely like the longer sessions because it's like more relaxed. There's more time for like getting to know each other a bit at the beginning if it's somebody new, and like knowing what their needs are for aftercare, that kind of thing. Like some people just like to chat afterwards for a few minutes
instead of just going out in the world.
Oh no, I rarely let anybody just like finish the scene and like, okay, see ya.
Yeah, you're not leaving yet.
You need to like come down a little bit.
Yeah, because I was like, wow, an hour is so short.
It is.
Like 3 hours is a lot, but like it was like at least 2 hours, I would say.
Yeah, like an hour and a half, 2 hours is good, right?
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Oh yeah, so like, in terms of, I know we're talking about the changing dynamics a bit of the BDSM world, in terms of like, it's niche, it's very niche, right? So what are your thoughts on like kind of new world BDSM? I know Sadie, you mentioned this too, but like things like financial domination and that kind of dom sub kind of relationships. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's such a big topic, and I feel like there's a lot of people that would be able to answer that question better than me, because I don't really do that. I mean,
but it's more just like your opinion and stuff too, because I know that Sadie's like, oh, there's so many people faking, and like, you know, you can tell. Yeah, like you're like,
there is, because what happens is people hear about FinDom and they're like, oh my gosh, I can go online and like take pictures of myself and say, you know, mean things to people and treat the subs just like garbage, and they'll give me money. But they're not doms, and they don't understand what the submissive mind,
Right.
and they don't understand a lot of the time, and this isn't true for all of them, but I think
from
from what I see, it's like, you know, they have no respect for the subs either, and like,
Right.
you know, FinDom is a real thing.
Yeah,
and if
financial
it's not,
domination, guys, we don't know what that is.
yeah,
So.
yeah, and if it's not done properly, then it's like, you know, let's just, it's not okay. It's
Yeah.
not okay. And like, I do have one sub that I do like financial domination and blackmail with, and you know, it's an interesting case because he's pretty much addicted to it, and I trust myself with that, but he'll be like, sometimes he'll want more than what I can offer, and he'll be like, is there another dom that you can recommend to share this with? And I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like, I don't trust anybody for you to give them all. I won't take his, he wants me to take his like bank account number and like all of the things and like have complete control over his life and his finances, and I'm like, I don't want that, and no, I won't recommend anybody, because someone's going to take hard advantage, and that's happened to him tons of times. But it's like this addiction, right?
It's addiction. Like they really like. Well, I won't say they, but like a lot of times they'll like, oh, drain my bank account. And
and like
they get off that and they get excited with that. That's dangerous because you fuck people's lives up.
Yeah, and I'm not all about that. Like, I'm genuinely like a pretty kind person.
Yeah.
So.
And like, you are kind of building like a connection. You're building like a rapport and relationship with your clients. So too, it's not just. I mean, I'm sure you have like a lot of like one-time clients though too.
Yeah, the transient ones.
Yeah, lots of transient ones. But then of course you want to like have those people coming back to you as well.
Yeah,
that's important too. So.
Yeah, and we get like a lot of I call it like dom tourists, where they like just want to try all the doms one time kind of thing. It's like with no commitment. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I'll play with you once, it's fun. But I definitely do prefer those like longer relationships, or like people that are like committed to me, and like, you know, it's way better. You can go so much deeper with them. But yeah, like back to the
and funner.
back to the like the question that you asked. I don't know. I don't really trust anybody with that amount of control when it comes to money. I just feel like that can be an unsafe thing.
Very unsafe thing. I know Sadie also mentioned something she doesn't do, but requests that ask for some kind of like permanent damage. Like, that's scary stuff too. There's a really fine line where you can seriously hurt somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, I have done like branding and stuff like that. So I don't know if that counts as like permanent damage, but it is something that I've done and enjoyed.
Okay, well, yeah, every dom is different, right?
Yeah.
So it just depends on what your boundaries are and stuff too, right? So we do have a few questions here, but I think they're kind of big. So, is it expensive to get started having to buy toys, renting a space, and outfits? And I know you said your eyes are like, yes.
Oh my gosh, like a latex dress is like $300 or something. You know, like it is expensive for sure. Yeah. So I just, the way that I kind of built up my supplies in my wardrobe was like, you know, my very sweet, dedicated subs have purchased me things, which is always lovely.
It's a great route.
It really is. But I also, like, when I, you know, started making money and like my basic needs were thankfully met, you know, my bills were paid and like things were back on track, then, you know, because I did come into this for the money also, right? So
it's like a motivator.
Yeah, like, you know, once that started to be like, oh, things are like pretty good financially, I would take a percentage of my earnings and reinvest it into my business. Yeah, like I paid for a lot of my outfits and a lot of my toys and photo sets and website and all of that. Those things cost money, so I just always kind of include that in like reinvesting a portion,
right,
to build up your supplies.
And that's smart too, because like especially if you are wanting to get into this, it is an investment, and you want to be able to, you know, give your client the best experience as you can.
And it adds to the professional appeal also, right? Like the subs are going to see if you have quality equipment, quality outfits, you're taking care of yourself, you know, your hair looks nice, all that stuff. That stuff costs money.
Yeah. Nothing comes for free in this life, especially in Vancouver.
Yeah, for sure. So then it kind of ups your caliber, I guess, or your...
Totally, yeah. Makes you more like legitimized, right?
Yeah.
We have some questions here. Tips for establishing ground rules and limits for new doms.
Okay, so I think if you're a new dom, like start with what you have experience with. Like hopefully if you're wanting to get into doming, you know, you're not just gonna straight away start charging money for things that you haven't done. Yeah. Right? So like start with the things that you feel comfortable with and that you have experience with, and then see what requests you get and see how does that make you feel. Like if, for instance, you know, somebody requests you to do pegging on them, like, I don't know, maybe see if that's something that seems interesting to you, then like do some reading. And I don't know what the question was, like how do you establish
like tips for establishing ground rules and like limits for new doms.
I think that's gonna be so
boundaries.
Your own boundaries is gonna be so different
and
so different for each person. So I think just like checking in with yourself.
Don't want to get lost in it in any kind of sex work, guys. Not just in terms of like dom sub, but like knowing what your boundaries are, knowing what your limits are,
and sticking with them. And it's a huge red flag if you have a client that you know you have set a boundary and they're
trying to
pushing for more. Well, then like, you know,
reassess that situation.
Yeah,
is the money actually worth it?
Yeah.
Most of the times it's not.
Yeah.
So great tips. And the last one here. Have you had crazier requests other than the tampon story? So the tampon was, Sadie told us a story about like how you made one of her clients. I think he had a blood fetish or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was so funny because, like, you know, my slave and I had been playing that way for quite a while, so it was super normalized. Between us. Like, anytime that I would get my period, it was like, oh, time to see my slave. And like I you know, I had escort friends that were always like, oh, it's so terrible whenever I get my period, guys are so grossed out by it. And I was like, oh my god, I'm winning right now, because anytime I get my period I get paid, and I think it's really fun. Like I really do like blood play. But yeah, so I would make like these cocktails every month of like piss and spit and like put my tampon in there and steeping tea and like making him drink that and like then sucking on the tampon. And I remember, so Sadie came to a session with us and we were just going about our normal business.
Because that was normalized for you guys.
Super normalized. We were both super into it. And after the session, the look on her face, she just goes white and her eyes are just like, she's like, I can't look at you the same. And I'm like, what, babe? What's wrong? And she's just like, that, you're super intense. And I'm like, what? Like,
what do you mean?
What do you mean?
It's normal.
It's just blood and piss and spit. What? Like, I mean, it was super funny. I do some more like extreme, I guess they're called extreme things to me. I'm like, that's fun. But yeah, I don't know. I love that she told that story. And I just still remember the look on her face. Like she's like, I can't look at you the same.
I know she told me that, and then I just have gotten so many comments on that. Like, wow, you have to introduce girls.
Yeah, that's me. That's Goddess Ivy.
And I'm just like, guys, I'm working on getting her on the show. Just you wait.
Oh my goodness.
Do you have any other crazy requests as well? Well, that to me is crazy, but
yeah, I mean,
what would you define as crazy though?
I know, right? I'm like,
this is just a regular Monday.
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't know. I do some pretty weird stuff, I guess. Like,
there's something for everybody. Get niche, and like, you know, the more niche you are, the more people are going to want you and want that, because there are people that offer it.
Yeah, definitely. I do. So, like, you know, when I have somebody that I've built trust with, like, I like to explore and like do new things and like do some more extreme stuff. Like, I don't know. I guess some of the things that I like to do is like I've purchased like medical staplers in the past, and like you can really like stretch the ball skin and like staple it onto the thighs and like stuff like that, like more intense like BDSM stuff, and like combine that with like branding and like wax pay and like just stuff like that is fun for me.
No, that's cool. For me, it just sounds really painful, but like the look on your face, you actually like so excited about it. And like I could tell that you really enjoy it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great.
Fun. Well, it's, you know, it's just like they're super into it too, right? And that's
it's a two-way street.
And that's what I said like earlier about like what the slave is interested in, and what they're willing to do, that's what is exciting for me.
Right.
So it's not always just the activity. Like, it could be something that's like way lighter and way more, you know, even vanilla-ish, but they're so into it that I'm like, this is so exciting.
Yeah. That's
Totally.
awesome. So I guess that's the last question for today, short and sweet. But at the end of the episode, we'd like to obviously promote to you. So if you have any channels, like where can we find you? I think you mentioned Twitter. Obviously, I said your website, but feel free to use this time here to...
Thanks. Yeah, my website is www.ivyharte.com. I think, right? Isn't
Yeah.
it? And then my Twitter handle is goddess__Ivy, and it's the same for my Instagram as well. I don't post as much on Instagram because, you know, Instagram doesn't like anything very extreme, but like Twitter, I'm on there quite a bit. And you can kind of get to know my quirky personality. And
Yay. So great. Well, I loved having you on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was so fun talking with you. Thanks so much for having me over.
Anytime. I know if you ever want to come back, you're more than welcome to. Lots of questions here. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for listening to Strip by Sia. I'm Sia. This is my podcast. You can find me on Instagram, Strip by Sia, and my personal, Sia Steph. And we'll catch you guys for another Sunday of fun sex talk. So yeah, see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Stripped by Sia, produced and hosted by Steph Sia, aka Kimchi, music by Ted D, photography by Ian Davern, and